most bizarre show on the internet. I am the one that some people refer to as Shane, aka the original Shane Squatch.
Hey, fish face!
Not fish face. I am Shane Squatch, my friend. And alongside me, like usual, I have the big bad Boo Daddy himself, Sir Orn Felix.
You are a smelly pirate hooker.
Well, that was a little far. Sorry.
Hey,
Damn,
but
Ron
it's
Burgundy,
topical
chill.
for the episode.
That's what I was going for, man. I got fish face and you're a smelly pirate whore. So welcome to the show, everybody. Already off to a good start. So a little bit of a news and update before we get into the usual fun stuff that we get into as we do on the show. We mentioned it last week, but something that we're going to hopefully try to put together as far as the Patreon goes. I really like the name that Oren threw last week, so we're going to stick with that. I'm going to be trying to do some bizarre town halls for the Patreon. Anybody that becomes part of the Patreon, whether you're part of the ad-free tier or the full access tier, whatever, everybody will have access to it. And essentially what it'll be is kind of like a meetup group discussion where everybody can kind of hang out, discuss things that are on their minds. We can go into particular topics if you guys might be into that, if you guys want to discuss shadow people on one or whatever. But something I'm going to try to put together. So if anybody thinks that they might be interested in doing something like that, just shoot me a message, let me know. Or if you guys are already a member of the Patreon, just let me know what you guys think about it. But hopefully it should be a lot of fun when we get it rolling. And hopefully once in a while we'll have Oren pop in for that one too. So, you know, be able to hang out with us behind the scenes. We can call it Bizarre Encounters After Dark, if you will.
That's only when it gets extra frisky, though.
That's true. Well, you never know, man. If we got listeners popping in there, it might get real frisky. Because I don't know about you, man, but I love them listeners.
Well, speaking of getting real frisky, our next episode of Bizarre Inquiries, our YouTube live show, is going to be Thursday, December the 4th. It's going to be roughly 7:15 Eastern time on the Bizarre Reality Media YouTube channel. So you guys be sure to submit questions or articles or videos or anything you want us to inquire about. Being that it's the month of December, we could even do kind of like Christmas themed things if you guys want. But anyway, be sure to submit anything you want us to inquire about for that. And also join us in the chat during the episode.
And if any of you guys might want to contact us for any reason whatsoever, be it being a guest on the show, sharing clips, articles, questions, sharing your experiences or encounters, or simply just be able to talk to us, you guys can get a hold of us through our email, which is bizarreencounters@outlook.com, or you guys could always call or text the Bizarre Reality Media hotline 24/7, and that number is 313-364-1551.
And if you guys would like to support the show, Shane, tell them how they can do that.
As I mentioned a little bit earlier, you guys can come and become part of the Patreon. 2 tiers available, ad-free / early access and full access. And if you guys are interested in seeing what it's all about, there are 7-day free trials available for both tiers. And any of your guys' support that goes towards the show, we greatly appreciate.
And you guys can also support the Bizarre Reality Media merch store with t-shirts starting at just the oddly specific and let's see what we're in November and thankfully low price of $15.68 plus shipping.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Woohoo.
And I know times are tough out there, especially with the holidays coming up, so we completely understand. But if you'd like to support the show in some other ways, which go a long way and we would definitely appreciate, first and foremost, you guys could definitely leave a review for the show on iTunes, any podcatcher you guys happen to use. And as our usual rule goes, 1 or 5 stars, we'll read them on the show and either give you a shout out or ridicule you, depending on which way you want to go with it. We're here for both.
And you guys can also do all the internet things like share and subscribe, share the show with your friends, your family, or even your enemies if you feel so inclined.
Whoever it is, just throw the show at them, you know, like literally just throw it at them, like put it on a sticker, put it on a towel, piece of paper, just throw it at their face and say, read it, bitch. And last but not least, you guys can come and catch live shows and video content on the Bizarre Reality Media YouTube, Rumble, and Twitch channels.
And as always, all the shit we've mentioned is in the link tree in the show description.
And now hopping into today's content, as you guys probably maybe caught from the intro as we were coming in, and I'm assuming that you guys probably saw the cover art, so you already know what we're talking about today. But, you know, if you didn't, you weren't regularly paying attention, you just hop right into the episode. Or why don't you let them know what we're getting into today?
All right. So for all you listeners out there, you know, in the month of October, Shane suggested that we kind of do things that were more spooky and Halloween themed. So we tried to do that for you guys. And he also suggested maybe for November to coincide with Thanksgiving, we could do things that were more like Native American or Pilgrim or colonial related. So I was going through like the Word document I keep of potential topics for the show, and nothing was really super duper specific to that. But I was like, pirates. That's close
Unfortunately, we
enough.
hit Roanoke too early.
We did. But pirates, that's close enough. I thought it would work, and this is kind of a topic I've been wanting to cover on the show for a while now, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to do that. We're going to talk about Blackbeard and the cursed town of Bath.
Ooh, and actually, how many natural science podcasts end up covering pirates? We might be in some bizarre territory right now, which is exactly what we try to do here.
Well, this one's going to combine a lot of things. We're going to talk a little bit about history, a little bit about folklore, and then we're gonna kind of get bizarre at the end. So we're going to cover a lot of bases here. And Shane, unless you got anything else, I'll go ahead and jump into tonight's material.
I just got some pirate fun facts, but I'll throw them along as we go along the episode because I've had them sitting in my brain for way too long, and this is the perfect excuse to use them.
All right, so we're going to start off talking about Blackbeard. So Edward Teach, or better known as Blackbeard, is arguably the most famous pirate of all time. Not much is known about his early life, but it's believed that he was born in Bristol, England, sometime around the year 1680. And it's also commonly believed that he began his career as a cabin boy on a privateer ship during Queen Anne's War. And Queen Anne's War was a war that was fought between Great Britain, France, and Spain. And privateers were private persons / vessels that were commissioned by the British Crown to attack enemy ships. And a lot of times they would like confiscate the ships and their cargo and capture and kill the crew members. So basically they were just like mercenaries or quote unquote legal pirates.
And I'm just going to throw this in here because you already kind of made a reference to it with
Okay.
arguably, like not exactly with a lot of this pirate stuff, as I'm sure anybody that's kind of dived into pirates kind of knows, a lot of this stuff is kind of up in the air. It's really hard to be able to track any of this stuff. And just like with a lot of these captains that have the names behind them, the folklore was just as important. So a lot of these stories like were stuff that people talked up. So it's really, really hard to separate like the fact from fiction with a lot of this pirate stuff. And I'm sure that even North Carolina has one. What's his name? Black Caesar, I think it was. That it's like a big pirate legend that's around like North Carolina. And they've recently proven that the guy never even existed in the first place. So like it's so weird with this pirate stuff that it's like you never really know where the validity is to it, but you know that there's something to it. It's literally just folklore as like pirate history. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of these pirate captains just have like really good marketing, and we're going to get into that a little bit later in the episode. But so moving on, Edward Teach / Blackbeard, after the end of Queen Anne's War, he turned from working on these privateer ships to just straight up piracy, and that's what a lot of privateers did after the war. And he joined forces with another former privateer named Captain Benjamin Hornigold, which is just
Love
a
that.
great name.
Weird
And,
thing to think about, by the way,
uh-huh.
just to throw this in here. You said that a lot of these pirates went from privateers into piracy. Just
Mhm.
a weird correlation. Doesn't this kind of remind you of like Vietnam vets right after Vietnam coming back? They turned into like these biker gangs. Like it kind of seems like it's kind of the same motif, but in a different era. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But, the thing about it, like we kind of said in the previous section, basically these privateers were pirates anyway. They were just allowed to do it during this war. So they were basically doing the exact same thing. It just wasn't legal anymore,
Same with the Vietnam vets, though. I mean, in all fairness, I mean, like as messed up as it sounds, like they were raping and pillaging over in Vietnam, and it was legal then. They came here and they were just like, "What do I do, man? Like, I can't live in this society now. Like, the hell?" Pretty close.
Yeah. So Blackbeard / Edward Teach, whatever you want to call him, he was appointed as captain of one of Hornigold's ships. But Hornigold soon retired from piracy, and Edward Teach took command of the entire fleet. And at this point, his reputation grew very quickly, and he began to be referred to as Blackbeard due to the quote very black beard, which he wore very long. And he also adopted this habit of braiding his beard into almost like pigtails and tying it with these bright red ribbons. And he would also tie lit fuses under like his pirate's hat. So when he went into battle, like smoke would be billowing out of his hat and around his head. And because of all this, he kind of developed this reputation and this very fearsome image. And he was once described as, quote, such a figure that imagination cannot form an idea of a fury from hell to look more frightful. And he was also allegedly like 7 feet tall. And this is, back in the 1700s. So between all that stuff, he probably was a pretty scary dude to run into on the high seas.
You know those old depictions you see where like he is like twice the height of everybody else on the ship? I guess there actually is some stock to that, you know?
Allegedly, anyway.
Allegedly. That smoke in the hat thing though, that's pretty dope though. That's almost kind of like that whole thing about like playing drums to sound like there's more people. Like it's like the extra little element of fear that makes that huge difference. Like it's something so subtle and small, but again, look at the time and era. You see some dude running at you with a smoking beard, you're like, oh crap, no, I ain't messing with that guy.
Well, and in a lot of the depictions and kind of the drawings and paintings of Blackbeard, he does have these lit fuses in his hat, and a lot of times he does have like smoke around his head when he's in these depictions. But anyway, so at the height of his power, Blackbeard commanded 4 ships and over 300 men. And one of his most notable kind of acts of piracy was his siege of the city of Charleston, South Carolina. And Blackbeard's fleet set up like this blockade in the port of Charleston, and they stopped and pillaged all incoming and outgoing ships. And they demanded food, money, and even women from these ships, which is pretty crazy by today's standards. But Blackbeard was active from New England all the way down to the Caribbean. But he chose the Outer Banks of North Carolina as kind of like his primary base of operations. This was due largely to like the occlusion / concealment that was provided by the isles and inlets of this area. But it also seemed like a lot of the locals were more than willing to kind of turn a blind eye to a lot of his piracy and criminal activity. In the year 1717, he captured a French slave ship called the La Concorde, and he renamed it Queen Anne's Revenge. So kind of, back to his history in Queen Anne's War. And this Queen Anne's Revenge ship would serve as his flagship until it ran aground off the coast of Beaufort, North Carolina, which is only like 45 minutes from where I grew up.
Is there any type of like anything there for it? Like I'm assuming that the ship probably got completely taken apart and rebuilt into something else, but is there like a marker or anything there by chance?
So there is like a small Blackbeard museum in Beaufort. I haven't been probably since I was a kid, but this whole area is kind of notorious for shipwrecks. This is kind of like the southern Outer Banks, and that whole area is kind of noted as the graveyard of the Atlantic because of all the shipwrecks that occurred in this like little strip of water off the coast of North Carolina.
Do they do like boat tours or anything out there where you can see it? Like I don't know how clear the water is, but do they do anything like that? That'd be pretty cool.
Not that I'm aware of, but they have a lot of like day trips you can take on like fake pirate ships, and like just like a little 3-hour tour, Gilligan's Island type thing, go out on this pirate ship. And they have like a pirate reenactment every year in this town, so almost like a Civil War reenactment where people like set up camps and have like fake battles and whatnot, but instead of Civil War it's pirates. So it's pretty cool. I mean, the area has definitely really embraced Blackbeard and the whole pirate lore and legends like pretty wholeheartedly, which I think is really cool.
I mean, it sounds like something else we need to add to the Bizarre Encounters World Tour. You know, we got to do Florida Man. We got to do this pirate reenactment. Like, we got a list here, man.
Well,
I'm down for a pirate
see,
reenactment.
Yeah, like the whole Outer Banks of North Carolina, like really leans hard into this whole pirate thing. And, I grew up in this area. I love pirate stuff. Always have. Got the pirate flag tattoo. That was one of my first ones I ever got. So
good old Jolly Roger.
Yep.
Dude, if I'm in that reenactment, I'm going to be the first one to get in trouble because I'm going to be the first one that swings down from some high beam with a knife in my teeth, because that is like the ultimate epitome of a pirate movie that I've always wanted to do. They'd be like, sir, you can't do that on the ship. You need to get off, please.
Well,
it's a fake knife, I swear.
Just don't tie lit fuses under your hat. You should be good to go.
I mean, if I'm already doing one, I might as well do the other. I mean, I got the big, long Blackbeard already going. I might as well go all out, right? And then at least I have an excuse. I could say, I was taking this very seriously. I'm a method actor. If I'm going to dress up as Blackbeard, I got to be doing the pirate shit.
Maybe we can call you like Lil Beard or something like that.
Lil Blackbeard. Blackbeard Jr. No, Lil Beard sounds like a rapper. Blackbeard Jr. I don't know. We need a different one. We'll call it
BJ, Blackbeard Jr.
That sounds... Call me Brown Beard. That'll be close enough. That'll work.
All right, BJ, you want to take a commercial break here?
For a BJ? Maybe.
All right, you good?
Yes, sir.
All right, so jumping back in, early in the year of 1718, Blackbeard married his 14th wife,
At
who was
least it wasn't
a
a 14-year-old.
oh no, she wasn't 14. She was 16. So
Oh,
she
2
was a
years.
grown ass woman.
Almost.
Yeah.
Maybe by 1800 standards. I mean, the life expectancy was what, like 35? So that's middle-aged at that time, right?
So anyway, this 16-year-old girl, her name was Mary Ormond, and her and Blackbeard settled down in Ormond's hometown of Bath, North Carolina, and that's spelled Bath, like taking a bath. And we're going to discuss this town in more detail in a little bit. But supposedly, when they moved to Bath, Blackbeard allegedly gave up piracy for a short period of
Allegedly.
time. And while they were living there, his neighbor and suspected business partner was the governor of North Carolina, a man named Charles Eden. And because of this relationship that they had, Blackbeard was able to secure an official pardon from the governor. However, soon after receiving this pardon, he acquired, quote unquote, a ship called the Adventure, and he returned to piracy.
Well, duh. I mean, once you live that life, man, you can't go back out of that.
Once you pirate, you can't go back.
Yeah, there ain't no going back from pirating, man.
So this return to piracy was like a direct violation of the terms of his pardon, and a bounty was placed on his head by the Virginia governor, who is a man named Alexander Spotswood, which is another great name.
Do you think he just did this to add more excitement to being a pirate? He's like, I had no intention of ever stopping. I just wanted to make it more risky so it's more fun.
He just wanted to, take a little siesta, shack up with his 16-year-old wife, and then go back to pirating.
Wait, how old was he at this time? Do you know offhand?
So I didn't do the math. It says he was born in roughly 1680, and this was, I think we said,
So 37.
Yeah, so he was like approaching middle age, but
Yeah, so he was, twice. Yeah, it's creepy at that point. We'll just call it that.
yeah,
If he
even
was like
by 1700
mid-20s,
standards.
Yeah, if he was like mid-20s, early 30s maybe with the time, but no, this dude was like late 30s. This guy was creeping.
So on November 22nd of 1718, a fleet of ships led by a man named Lieutenant Robert Maynard attacked Blackbeard and his men at their hideout on Ocracoke Island, North Carolina.
Good job with that one. I was about to stumble over that word.
Oh, it's only because I've heard it my entire life. That's the only reason I know how to say it. But anyway, supposedly this lengthy battle took place, and allegedly Blackbeard was shot multiple times and stabbed 37 times. But eventually he was beheaded by this Lieutenant Maynard. And according to the legend, Lieutenant Maynard stuck Blackbeard's severed head on the mast of his ship and sailed back to Virginia with the head still on the mast.
Pretty dope. I wonder if that skull's somewhere. Weird
I'm
thought.
sure.
I
mean, it seems like that would have been a keepsake that they would have held on to.
That's what I'm saying. It's probably in the Smithsonian. It belongs in a museum, as they say.
With the giant skeletons?
Yeah, with the giant skeletons and Blackbeard's head. Because apparently he may have been a Nephilim. He was almost 7 feet
close
tall.
enough, yeah.
They're like, just put it with the giant skulls.
So kind of rounding out some miscellaneous and some fun little thoughts and theories with Blackbeard. So I was kind of surprised doing the research of this. He was only active for approximately 2 years,
Really?
which is kind of crazy. Yeah. Because when I was going through the research, all the timestamps were within this 2-year period. It's man, there's no way that's correct, and I had to corroborate and double, triple fact check all this to make sure the dates were correct. Because there's no way this dude did all this stuff in 2 years, but apparently he did. So even though his career was very short, it's been said that he, quote, was romanticized after his death and became the inspiration for an archetypal pirate in works of fiction across many genres. And it's also led to a lot of kind of ghost stories and legends surrounding Blackbeard. On the Outer Banks of North Carolina, there's a lot of tales of orbs and strange lights and even ghostly ships seen off the coast. And there's also tales of people seeing Blackbeard's decapitated ghost, supposedly searching for his severed head.
I feel like it'd be more scary if it was a floating head. So you're probably lucky you get the reverse on that one.
Yeah, I mean, he can't chase after you that way.
Floating heads are fucking horrifying. Just
But it has been said that this is kind of an omen of bad luck and death, and bad luck befalls anyone who is unfortunate enough to cross paths with this ghost. And finally, it's believed by many that Blackbeard had like this vast treasure hidden before his death, and this treasure has so far never been found. So that's all I've got for the Blackbeard portion. If you've got anything you want to throw in.
I was going to ask about the treasure anyways, but I guess you already brought it up, man. The question is, would he have actually hid his treasure in North Carolina? Because I feel like the treasure would be nowhere near where his main base of operation was, because that would be exactly where people were looking. If his treasure does exist out there, it's going to be in the middle of BFE.
Well, and like we said, I mean, he was active all the way from New England down to the Caribbean. So, I mean, that's a pretty large area to have to search for this treasure.
Call it generic, but I'm going to assume that his treasure is probably on some random little tiny island down in South America. Like, that would probably be the best place for you to hide your treasure.
Maybe it's down in South America with the Nazis.
Hey, maybe. Maybe that's what they're using in Argentina, man. Or, no, they just took his treasure all the way down to Antarctica at this point.
Oh, we always hear about Nazi gold. Maybe it was Blackbeard's gold first.
Yeah, and they took his head, too. They recreated his head so that he could tell them where the gold was, so that they could use it to continue their operations down in Argentina.
That seems like something those rascally Nazis would do.
They obviously became friends with him when they used their Die Glocken to time travel to get to know him a little bit. They said, "Let us know where the treasure is, and we will find it later on, and we'll bring your head back to life." Like, what do you mean my head back to life? You're like, oh shit, we weren't supposed to tell you that part of the future. Didn't we learn this from Back to the Future? You're not supposed to tell people how their death happens.
Or fuck your mom. You're not supposed to do that either.
Yes. Otherwise, you might end up becoming your own dad. Or you might have to spin it where your dad ends up falling in love with your mom because your mom feels like she kissed her brother when she kisses you.
Okay. You want to take an ad break there?
Yeah, probably a good idea. Sorry, I watched Back to the Future recently, so I'm a little fresh on the Back to the Future news. I'm going back through it, watching it with my daughter, so we're on Back to the Future too. So I got all the Back to the Future lore fresh in my mind, my friend. Great Scott! Sorry, I was going to put that as the end going into the break.
Okay, no. You want to do it again since I talked over you?
Great Scott! All right, we can hop in now.
All right. So, like I said a little bit ago, we're going to talk a little bit more about the cursed town of Bath now. So, the town of Bath, North Carolina is, most well known for these connections to Blackbeard, but it has a pretty strange and interesting history, kind of all of its own. It's located off of the Pamlico Sound, which is in Beaufort County. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but the closest, like, actual, substantial towns are New Bern and Washington. And Bath was officially incorporated in 1705. And because of this, it's considered North Carolina's first town and also kind of its first capital because the North Carolina General Assembly met there on several occasions.
Is there fresh springs there by chance? Because I feel like every single town that's named Bath has fresh springs.
Not that I'm aware of, but it's on this little alcove inlet, just a small body of water.
Kind of weird. I feel like most towns are named after what they did. So it's like Bath, hot springs, people bath there, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm surprised there's not a connection to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it was called that. I never really found anything about that in any of my research.
Because Blackbeard was Scrooge McDuckin in that motherfucker. That's why.
Him and the governor, yeah. So anyway, in the early years of this town, it developed this reputation for being rambunctious and lawless. And this was largely due to it being a naval port and a trading hub and a lot of people from a lot of places coming through this town. Almost
like Biff's town in Back to the Future 2?
Kind of. Biff Tannen's Pleasure Palace. This is Blackbeard's Pleasure Palace.
Exactly.
So we're going to fast forward to the 1750s. And at this time, there was a traveling evangelist named George Whitefield. And he visited Bath on several occasions. And he was this real hellfire and brimstone type preacher. And he condemned the locals for their wicked and sinful ways. But he was also known for being kind of an eccentric guy. And he traveled in a wagon that he carried his own coffin in. And he even slept in this coffin. And that was allegedly because, quote, he preferred it to sleeping in the dens of sin that served the public with lodging.
He's just
Um,
trying to get his money's worth, man. If he's gonna spend money on a coffin, he's gonna enjoy it first.
well, and hotels are expensive. I mean, the economy's bad out there in Bath. But anyway, so after a while, this guy's whole shtick kind of got old with the locals, and he was informed that he was no longer welcome in the town.
I'm surprised they didn't just nail him into the coffin when he was sleeping.
Well, apparently this did not sit very well with this guy, and he decided that he was going to place a curse on the town. And he allegedly said, quote, "I say to the village of Bath, village, you shall remain, now and forever, forgotten by men and nations, until such time as it pleases God to turn the light of his countenance again upon you." And what's kind of interesting about this is, he said that this town would be forgotten by men and nations. Well, nowadays, Bath only has about 250 permanent residents, and it like never developed into this bustling port or commercial hub or government center that it probably should have, being that it was like literally the first most important town in the state of North Carolina. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. I kind of figured that, again, the first town, it would have actually turned into something. So yeah, there's some validity to some curses, man.
Yeah, and like I said, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. The actual capital got established, I believe, in New Bern, which is pretty close to this, not long after, but still just kind of interesting that, nothing ever really came of this town. And, me and Jenny have talked about going there to visit, but there's like nothing there. There's like one restaurant, there's some Blackbeard stuff. There's like the oldest church in North Carolina and like an old homestead and things like that. But like, there's not really enough there to like make a trip out of. And it's not like it's on the way to or from anything, but
You just got to
hopefully
turn
one
it
day I'll
into
make it out there.
an adventure looking for ghost ships or something, get like a
Yeah.
nice little like spot on the beach if they got like an Airbnb or something like that, and look for ghost ships. Maybe you'll get lucky and you'll see Blackbeard. Maybe,
Yeah, they've
that
got,
wouldn't
like,
be lucky. That'd be a
little
curse,
bed
but
and breakfast there, and then they've got this like marina that has hotel rooms that you can stay at. So it looks like a cute little town. So hopefully, before too long, we can make it out there, and I'll be able to take some pictures and share with you guys.
oh yeah, that'd be awesome, man. Just even an overnight trip, that'd be pretty cool. If you end up going to the Blackbeard gift shop, though, you have to let me know what they got in there, because that place probably sounds like it have some pretty cool stuff in
Oh,
the
heck yeah, I'll
museum.
get you a sticker or something.
Perfect. I put it right here behind me.
All right, you want to do another ad break?
Yes, sir.
All right, so the town of Bath is also notable for being home to this strange phenomenon known as the Devil's Hoof Prints.
Love that. There's so many different altercations of saying basically the same thing.
Oh, we're going to get to that. So, according to this legend, in October of 1813, there's this local man named Edward Cutler, and he hosted this like community picnic and a day of horse racing on his farm. And prior to the start of one of the races, there's this young man named Jesse Elliott, and he was bragging about how he was, the best horse racer in the county. And about this time, a mysterious stranger wearing all black rode up on a jet black horse, which possible Men in Black connections. But anyway, this mysterious stranger challenged Jesse to a race. And, Jesse, being the prideful young man that he was, gladly accepted this challenge, and he mounted his horse, whose name was Fury. And during the race, Jesse got out to, what seemed to be an insurmountable lead. But on the backstretch of the horse track, he was heard screaming at Fury, quote, "Take me a winner or take me to hell." And at this point, Fury suddenly stopped and dug his hoofs into the ground. And Jesse was thrown from the horse, and he collided headfirst with a pine tree, and it killed him instantly.
Yikes. That sounds like an awful way to go.
Yeah. So as all this was going on, the mysterious stranger rode off into the nearby woods, and supposedly he was laughing maniacally and never seen again. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So they had this
And-
horseman. This is the origin tale. This is where he originally came from. And then he somehow lost his head in a race. And then now we have the modern, headless horseman.
It's like an Inception situation.
Yeah, this is an early appearance before he lost his head.
So in the years following this race and this incident, the locals began to notice a lot of strange things about this area where Jesse died. It was said that the hoof prints left by Fury did not erode or fade away, and the grass would like not grow in that area any longer.
Sounds like the devil's tramping ground,
Well, we're
right?
going to talk about that a little bit, yeah. And some of the locals even began to wonder if the stranger had actually been the devil himself sent to claim Jesse's soul. Dun 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 again.
Dun dun dun. No, yeah, that definitely sounds like there's clearly a connection between, you know, the alien thing and this whole like demonic Luciferian type thing. Like whatever it is, we haven't quite figured out yet, but there's some kind of clear tie to it. And it seems like one of the main things you always go back to is the fact of like stuff being burned and never going back to being normal again. Like the Devil's Tramping Ground was one. We're talking about the what's the other one? The claw prints that are on that front door of that church.
The snarly owl.
Yeah. That was a Black Shuck. Yep, Black Shuck,
yeah.
over in England. But this seems to be like a typical like motif. And it's also, again, usually something you see with a lot of extraterrestrial stuff. Like there'll be like landing sites and all of a sudden nothing will grow in that area again. But here's where the weird part comes in. So obviously it has something to do with like radiation, for example. And I think we talked about this on a Bizarre Inquiries, the whole thing about the Ark of the Covenant, that they believe that it has some kind of like radioactiveness to it. And then there's the whole theory about it being in Ethiopia in this specific church. And everybody that works at that church is completely blind. Like there's something to these things that come from another realm, so to speak, and them being radioactive. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily that they're radioactive or it's just that maybe the particles work differently because they come from another reality, but there is this heavy tie to it. It's just, what is it? It's so hard to just throw around in your head. Like, what could it possibly be? Because it's not just demonic. Like I said, like the Ark of the Covenant seems to carry these same properties. So what's the deal with that?
Yeah, you're definitely right. I mean, this motif of radiation is very much associated with any type of alien UFO type landing. Minor spoiler, the next topic that I'm working on for a deep dive, we're actually going to talk about radioactivity in concert with a UFO landing. I don't want to say too much about it. So it's kind of funny you brought that up.
Little teaser.
Also, you know, how many times do we talk about, you know, one person's alien is another person's demon, especially back in these days? I mean, it was harder for people to kind of separate the two, I think. I mean, religious
there was no
framework.
idea of an alien at this point. It wasn't until what, the 40s maybe, that the whole concept of like aliens like that really started coming to be.
Yeah, I mean, your religious framework would be the only lens that people had to view anything out of the ordinary. So, yeah, I mean, very interesting and touches on a lot of things we talk about on the show all the time.
Yeah, it's like that whole like mysterious stranger, like the others, like a trickster or something like that, you know, because there's clearly like a tie to it. And, you know, the devil, I guess, himself is a trickster. So that's one way to interpret it. But the other side is these tricksters coming from another reality, you know, and then it kind of gets into the whole radioactivity aspect of things again.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you want to do an ad break here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so jumping back into the devil's hoof prints. According to the local folklore, the hoof prints made by Jesse Elliott's horse are still there to this day. They're currently located on private property, but it's located within this grassy area, but supposedly still no grass grows within the prints.
I'm going to try to look up a picture of it, by the way.
Okay. I'll just keep on while you're looking it up. And it says that still they cannot be filled in or eroded, and that if any, you know, sticks or debris or anything like that falls into the prints, it will mysteriously disappear. There's also some other bizarre occurrences reported in this area, including strange electronic malfunctions and animals refusing to go near these hoof prints. And how many times do we talk about electronic malfunctions and animals behaving weirdly around these kind of paranormal, alien, high strangeness situations?
I'm going to bring this up real quick, by the way.
Okay.
I don't know if this is actually it. Is that it? Because it's saying North Carolina, Bath. Like, it's like in the dirt like that? Or is it more of these like rock looking ones?
I am not sure. I think it's kind of more the rock looking ones, if I'm not mistaken.
These guys right here?
Yeah, I think that's probably more it because, like I said, the research I found said that it's currently located in kind of like a grassy area.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to find pictures of it, especially if it's private property. Like, I'm going to assume that these pictures are it. It's just hard to see because it's all covered in brush and stuff.
Yeah. So basically, from my understanding now, this is pretty much located like in the woods behind somebody's house. So you've got to like go through these people's yard to get to the devil's hoof prints.
Which explains why there's like no pictures of it.
Mhm. Yep. So anyway, jumping back in, I thought this is kind of interesting.
By the
At
way, you
one-
made that comment about
Mhm.
the animals. I was gonna say, I wonder if
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
radioactivity might have something to do with it, because obviously radioactivity like stays in an area, and these animals clearly have this connection with like magnetic frequencies and like picking up stuff in the air. So I'm kind of curious if it's a matter of that if there's some type of like radioactivity coming from it, they're like receptors that pick up like the magnetism, like interact with it possibly. That's kind of what I'm kind of theorizing.
No, I think that makes perfect sense because I mean, animals can even pick up on like weather and stuff. Like when I was a kid, whenever there'd be a hurricane coming, like it would still be hours off the coast, but like the animals always started freaking out and like could tell that the storm was coming. So, I mean, if animals can pick up on a hurricane, you would think they damn sure could pick up on radioactivity.
The whole like seagulls on the break wall thing. I'm sure you've heard that living
Yeah.
in North Carolina, that, if
Yeah.
it looks like it's going to storm and the seagulls are still flying around, you're good. But even if it looks like it's clear, you see them sitting on the break wall, get out of the water.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. But anyway, like I said, I thought this was a kind of interesting little tidbit. So at one point in time, a local news crew visited the Devil's Hoofprints area, and they were kind of attempting to debunk the legend. And what they did was they filled the prints with like dirt and sticks and other debris, and then they covered it with like this kind of grid system that they made out of thread. The idea being that if anybody fucked with the footprints or the hoof prints rather, it would break the thread, and they'd know somebody had messed with it. Well, anyway, the next morning when they returned, they discovered that all the prints were clear of debris, but this kind of lattice work of thread was still intact, which I think is kind of crazy. Also, scientists from Duke University have studied the prints. They did not come to any definitive explanation, but some possible explanations were that they were caused by erosion, caused by groundwater, that they were small sinkholes, or that they were caused by veins of salt. And remember that veins of salt. I think that this one's kind of interesting, and we're going to circle back around to it later.
The first couple of them just sound like the usual. Like, it's more believable to just say something weird's happening than to say like, oh yeah, like erosion happens overnight and all of it is gone. Oh, it must be some really, really small sinkholes that we can't see, but it moves all this debris out of it. Like, those just sound just as ridiculous.
I'm surprised they didn't say it was from like the beak of a sandhill crane.
It was ball lightning. It pulls it up out of it.
There you go. All right, going to do the last break.
Yes, sir.
All right, so you already talked about this a little bit, Shane, but the legend of the Devil's Hoofprints shares a lot of similarities with another piece of North Carolina folklore known as the Devil's Tramping Ground. And we did a whole episode on this all the way back in episode number 43. So if you guys want some more information about this, definitely go back and listen to that episode. It's one of our early ones, so it's kind of rough. Maybe we should revisit this topic again at some point. But anyway,
just out of curiosity, before we get too far in, do you know
Yeah,
how
go ahead.
far these two locations are from each other? Like, do they have-
so it's probably about 3 hours, I would say.
Okay, so it probably isn't anything like they're relatively close, and it might be something with that particular area. That's what I was trying to throw out.
Yeah, so where I live now is kind of like in the middle of the state, and this Devil's Hoofprints is on the east coast of the state, so probably 2 hours from where I'm at now. And the Devil's Tramping Ground is like an hour or so kind of southwest, I believe. So it's probably about 3 hours total between these two.
Yeah, so there's probably no like similarities between maybe some of the like mineral buildup and stuff like that, but for the most part, there's not like there's something weird to this area, like it's radioactive. It's this
No,
because they're
no,
too far
'cause-
away from each other.
I mean, this would be very different types of soil and whatnot. I mean, one is like on the coast, so it's probably very sandy. And then this other one is more in kind of the Piedmont area of the state. So totally different geographical things going on there.
Makes it that much more interesting though that both of them are in the same state, but don't actually carry any similarities as far
Yeah,
as like
well,
ground or
there's a lot
landscape
of
go.
similarities. They're just not geographic. So this Devil's Tramping Ground, it's located off of a remote stretch of road in Chatham County, North Carolina. And it's this mysterious 40-foot circle of barren ground. And according to legend and folklore, no grass or vegetation has grown in the circle for like well over 100 years. And it's said that the devil himself haunts the area, quote, walking in circles as he thinks up new means for causing trouble for humanity. Yeah, there you go. There's a picture of it
I
right
figured
there.
I'd bring up a picture since I already had everything. It was actually popping up with this when I was looking up
I
the
saw
hoof
it,
prints,
yeah.
so I figured I might as well just bring this up.
No, these pictures are a lot more impressive.
And a lot easier to see and actually understand what you're trying to look at.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, this area is also associated with a lot of strange phenomenon. It's similar to the devil's hoof prints. Sticks and objects and debris that's left inside the circle disappears when left overnight. People have attempted to camp inside the circle, and they report waking up to find themselves and their camping gear outside of the circle. And also, dogs and other animals refuse to go near this place as well. So, a whole lot of similarities to the devil's hoof prints. Some of the theories and legends and explanations for this include the following. There's a Native American legend that says two rival tribes fought a battle at the location. And during this battle, Chief Croatan, who we talked about in our Lost Colony of Roanoke episode, I
Do
believe
you know what
that
number
was
that was?
107, if I'm not
There it is.
mistaken. So a more recent one. But supposedly he was killed during this battle and he was buried at this spot, and nothing grows there, quote, because the great spirits are still in mourning for their fallen leader. Like you talked about a little bit ago, it's also been suggested that this area could have been a UFO landing spot and that an extraterrestrial craft could have burned the grass and irradiated the soil. And I'm sure you're going to have something to add to this section, so just pop in whenever you want to. There's also a lot of similarities between the Devil's Tramping Ground and like the fairy rings of European folklore. And a fairy ring is, quote, a naturally occurring ring or arc of mushrooms, a necrotic zone, which means dead grass, or a ring of dark green grass. And according to folklore, stepping inside one of these fairy rings was considered like super duper dangerous and could even lead to being cursed or abducted. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. And yeah, I've always heard do not step in fairy rings. Was it Kevin? Was it a fairy ring involved in his weird mushroom story?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I'm not sure if it was specifically a ring, but yeah, same type situation.
I vaguely remember him mentioning like walking through a fairy ring, and then that's when that weird stuff happened.
Yeah, something very much of this same vein. But kind of what's interesting is these fairy rings are also associated with witches and the devil, which I think is kind of funny with like the Devil's Tramping Ground and Devil's Hoof Prints.
And also the portals that we were kind of talking about, or stargates we were mentioning on the last episode with Trey too.
Yeah, and so this is kind of interesting. In his 1969 book, Passport to Magonia, astronomer and ufologist Jacques Vallée talks about a lot of similarities between, the fairy lore of, ancient Europe and the modern day UFO phenomenon. So, a lot to unpack there. Is there anything you want to add to this section?
I mean, that's the other weird similarity, man. We were talking about it a little bit earlier with the whole like, demons / aliens thing, and then you also have I forgot to throw fairies into that one. I mean, that's like the other one that kind of has these weird similarities. Like, they're not all like fully distinct, but like the common motifs of like being abducted or taken. You go into this place and time dilutes differently. Them trying to trick you into coming into their area, and then also you're basically trapped there forever. I mean, that's essentially the whole thing about like selling your soul, going to hell. You get tricked into a deal, which is exactly what the fairies do. They're like, oh, come and eat our food, come and hang out with us, come and party with us, and now you're stuck here forever. Like, and then the time, like I said, dilation thing that you kind of get as far as like the extraterrestrial stuff. Like, it's weird. It's like you can't say that all of them exactly parallel each other, but they all really kind of have these things that all kind of are like similar back and forth with each other. But like to put two side by side, you have to put all three, and then you kind of notice that they have these like bounce back and forths. They're not like completely parallel, but this thing kind of matches with this thing, and this thing kind of matches with this thing.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know if they're all coming from the same thing or they are the same thing, but they definitely have some similarities as far as like if they are coming from another place. Like maybe that's the commonly shared thing here.
Well, and like we always talk about, issues of language, and like you're saying, when you factor in hundreds or close to thousands of years in a lot of these stories, they're all remarkably similar. So Yeah, there's some sort of core thing or motif going on that connects all these different things. It's just how much stock do we want to put in the differences and how much stock do we want to put in the similarities? And I'm very much of the persuasion in a lot of these things. We're all talking about the same thing. We're just calling it something different.
I mean, in all fairness, dude, I've said this on a million shows, but if there wasn't any validity to the weirdness with the fairy stuff, then why would they completely reroute highways in Europe because they know
Hmm.
that it's a known fairy area? Like, if there wasn't something to it, then they would not be spending an extra couple $1 million just to reroute a road to
Yeah.
not touch an area. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, they know, I don't know, maybe it's one of those conspiracies that like the people that are in charge know a little bit more about it than they kind of lead off, or I don't know, man, there's something to it. I kind of feel like there's a lot of similarities between like that and like the national parks thing,
Hmm.
because
Yeah,
it
for
seems like
sure.
it's the matter of like we just did it a different way. Instead of rerouting a highway, we go, this is a national park, we don't put
Well,
anything through
and that
there.
even gets back to, with fairies, you can be abducted, you can go missing in fairyland, and then that gets back to missing 411 in the park. So yeah, there's definitely something there.
That's what I'm saying, man. Maybe it's the same thing, is that they know that people will go missing in these areas. So maybe it's not even necessarily they put stock in the whole fairy thing, but they just know that like anomalous
Weird
events
things
happen and we're
happen here.
not going to put
Yeah.
anything else past that. We just don't want to take any chances with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, I mean, in all fairness, dude, at this point, I'm surprised they haven't closed down certain areas of national parks just because of a high volume of people disappearing in one particular spot.
Well, I'm sure, if they could, they would, but it's kind of one of those double-edged swords. Are you going to get more flack and more attention for closing this down than if you just let somebody disappear every once in a while?
But I almost feel like you wouldn't get any flack if you just kind of like closed off the area and didn't really say anything about it. You just don't
Well,
draw
and it seems
attention
like
to
they
it. You're
kind
just
of
like
do that a
path
lot. Like,
closed.
this area is under maintenance. This bridge needs to be repaired. Things like that. So, I mean, maybe that's what they're doing in those type situations.
Like Daniel Boone specifically, I don't know if you've looked at like the missing persons map from there, but it's like clustered heavy in like specific areas. Like
Hmm.
that's like one of those perfect instances where I'm surprised they don't just kind of like fence off the area and just say like unsafe to travel, like sinkholes or something like that.
Well, hey, it's definitely unsafe to travel. We've established that.
You're going to travel to another reality, my friend.
All right, so kind of closing out the Devil's Tramping Ground, there's been testing conducted by the North Carolina Department of Agriculture in this area, and they found that the soil was completely sterile and it had unusually high salt content. And if we remember back to when we were talking about the devil's hoof prints, veins of salt were one of the possible explanations for that. And I think this whole salt motif also is kind of interesting in light of like salt being associated with witchcraft and magic and things like that.
But keeping them away, though, that's the kind of weird aspect of it. Maybe this is going to sound weird, but think about this theory. What if there's something to it that these specific places that an anomalous event will kind of happen and that'll just kind of sit uncomfortable but vacant? Maybe it's a matter of like something closing that area. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why there's the salt, because there's the whole thing with salt that you put it across doors, you surround
Hmm.
yourself with salt when you're doing like a ritual and stuff. I wonder if there's a matter of like something's been closed in these areas and that's why the
Yeah.
salt's there, and that's why nothing ever grows back, is because of the salt content and because some kind of doorway has been permanently closed.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially when we talk about how these areas are very much associated with the devil and witches and witchcraft and things like that. And when you bring in this salt aspect, I think it is interesting to think, hey, maybe hundreds, thousands of years ago, people still knew these areas were weird and weird things happened and weird things showed up. And they did some sort of ritual using salt to close these doorways and keep the devil away. So, I mean, I think that's a really, really good point.
And there might be even some more stock to that too, that it might actually be something more paranormal. I mean, typically salt, animals love salt, dude. You put salt out for like a deer, they'll lick the hell out of some salt. So why is it this particular salt the
Hmm.
animals don't want to go anywhere near? Is because maybe there's something more to it?
Yeah.
Because anywhere else, if you put a black eye salt out in the woods, dude, every animal's gonna come up and start licking that thing. Like, it's weird that these salt areas they'd want to avoid. You think they'd be all over it?
Yeah. It's almost like there's something else going on there, right?
Exactly.
All right, so this episode really isn't going to have as much as like a conclusion section as a lot of the stuff we talk about, but do you have any final thoughts on Blackbeard or the Cursed Town of Bath or the Devil's Hoofprints slash the Devil's Tramping Ground?
Um, I'm gonna put it as this. Blackbeard in general, really, really fun one to dive into, obviously. Not something that I ever thought we'd ever end up covering on the show, but I'm glad that you kind of brought some more knowledge as far as Blackbeard with the whole, like, only running and doing 2 years. Like, that's absolutely crazy to me. But continuing on further from that, I personally, again, probably not being a North Carolina resident, was not aware of all these like paranormal and other ties to Blackbeard. Like I've
Hmm.
heard the Blackbeard story a million times, but I was honestly not aware of any of this aspect of it. So it was kind of a weird one to hit because it's a pirate story, but kind of weird that as we get to the end, like there's all these connections with Blackbeard that links into our other research. So like just a weird comment, dude. We came into this one, at least I did, kind of thinking that, this is going to be something a little bit different, but kind of weird how, all signs point back to, or all roads point back to Rome.
Yeah, for sure. And growing up, I always saw like these, ghosts of Blackbeard books, like in the local bookstores and things like that. And there is a lot of like paranormal stuff associated with pirates in this area. And, I never really thought about it because I've just always been around it. But maybe that's something we could dig into in a future episode, more like kind of paranormal ghost pirate stories. Cause I had a lot of fun putting this one together.
I mean, that might even fall in with the whole like, oh crap, why am I always brain farting on that word? The whole like thought projected being concept. Begins
Like a
with a T.
tulpa.
Yeah, tulpa. That's it. I'm always
Hmm.
brain farting on that word. A lot of people they love the pirate stories. Treasure Island, like all
Yeah.
that type of stuff.
And
So I
like even
wonder if
Jack Sparrow like
yeah.
really highlighted this for younger generations.
So I wonder if a lot of these like pirate, because obviously like ghost ships and all that stuff are pretty rampant when it comes to pirate lore. I
Hmm.
wonder if it's a matter of like the Tulpa effect, that so many people have so much interest and thought projected into
Yeah.
pirates that these things appear not because they're there necessarily, but because we're creating them into our reality because so many people are putting thought on it. Like if you're in this area where there's pirates, even if you're not into pirates, you're going to be like, oh, dude, it'd be cool if I saw a ghost ship. So every single person in that
Hmm.
area is putting thought and projection into that. And on top of that, you have this area that's got all this weird stuff going on anyways. So I don't know if it falls on a ley line. I don't know if there's something special about the land, but if there's something special about the land, and then you have all these people that are coming there and thinking of pirates, it might just spark that up and cause more of these pirate ghost tulpas because there maybe is something energetic about the land itself.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of these stories, people talk about like ghost lights or what are basically orbs.
Mhm.
And how many times have we talked about the phenomenon presenting itself largely in the way that the experiencer expects it to present itself? So, yeah, between this whole Tulpa idea and the phenomenon wearing masks, if you're seeing this orb or this manifestation or whatever you want to call it in this area, and you're expecting to see a pirate ghost ship, you're probably going to see a pirate ghost ship.
As long as it gets thought and idea, that's all they seem to care about. It's kind of like the
Hmm.
whole like demon concept that you see these things that they'll kind of go through the ages and have different names and different things that people kind of like pray to through the ages and everything. So it's not that there's necessarily power in the name, it's power in the thought and projection of putting it on that thing. So if that thing decides to take the role of something else and people are still thinking of it in a way, you're just adding more energy to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, and yeah, like you said, it's funny. I, thought this was going to be a little more history folklore based, but there's so many connections to other things we've talked about on the show, and this one got more bizarre than I thought it was going to when I started doing the research. So, kind of my concluding thoughts: Blackbeard, like we said, great marketing. This guy was only active for 2 years, and he's like the most popular person to ever do his line of work.
We've
So,
been running this podcast for almost twice as long as
yeah,
Blackbeard's reign. That's crazy to think about.
yeah, it really is. So, I mean, thumbs up to Blackbeard. He was very efficient. When it
We need
comes
his
to
marketing team.
yeah, for real. When it comes to the town of Bath, I think this is a really fun story. I think it's interesting, the curse and how the town like never really developed. There's nobody or nothing there. Like I said, definitely want to get out there at some point in time and visit and take some pictures, and maybe I can do kind of like a report back if we end up doing that. Devil's Hoofprints slash Devil's Tramping Ground. I think both of these stories are really fun on their own, but I think it's super cool to look at the similarities between the two. Like I've talked about on the show, like the Devil's Tramping Ground is my favorite piece of North Carolina folklore. So I thought it was really cool to find this other thing that was very similar.
And also in the same state, dude. I feel
Yeah,
like there might even be
exactly.
more if you really dig into it because if this one's on somebody's property and it's just kind of like known but kind of forgotten about at the same time. I almost wonder if there's more spots like this in North Carolina that are just private property that like they're just completely forgotten, you
I'm
know?
sure there's spots like this everywhere. It's just you got to, find the folklore and then find the spot. I think that's kind of the thing about it. Like, the Devil's Tramping Ground, it's this big fucking circle in the middle of nowhere. People can find that, but like this Devil's Hoof Prints is pretty much only kept alive by the story at this point. So, like we talk about all the time, that's why it's important, I think, to talk about these local pieces of folklore because it keeps the stories alive. And, in another 10, 15, 20 years, less and less people are going to know about this and it's going to be more overgrown in this area and even harder to find. So, I mean, like we say all the time, I just think it's important to talk about this sort of thing.
Give them a means to jumping to a digital media, because I'm sure these are in books, but even books partially get forgotten about. Podcasts will eventually get forgotten about, but at least at this current day and age, digital media is the way to go. So we're giving it a new life, and we're in a weird way, we're kind of giving it an eternal life because I feel like the stuff around the internet, as long as humanity exists, it's going to exist somewhere on a database somewhere. So, in a weird way, we kind of are trying to preserve all these old stories.
Yeah. So last thing I'll throw in with the Devil's Tramping Ground. So this past October, so about a month ago, they actually did like a paranormal festival there. So I hope this is something they do again in the future. I wasn't able to attend. It was the same day as my sister's wedding, so I couldn't really get away with going to the Devil's Tramping Ground for that. But I hope they do it next year. If they do, we're definitely going to go to it, and I'll keep you guys posted on that as well. But yeah, this was a fun episode to put together. Like I said, it combined a lot of history, a lot of folklore, and then even some bizarre stuff at the end. So, yeah, that's all I've got for this. But I think, Shane, you've got some pirate factoids to share, do you not?
Yes, I have some fun facts. So, considering, pirates are pirates, you would assume that their rules and guidelines are probably pretty pirate-like, right?
You would assume.
You would assume, but that is incorrect. Believe it or not, pirates actually have a very strict, very righteous code, believe it or not. And I wanted to bring it up here and share some other pirate fun facts with you. So first and foremost, if you're a pirate, crew members had the right to vote on important decisions. Doesn't matter who it is. It was a complete democracy. So everybody on the ship had an equal vote, which is a crazy concept when you're really thinking about pirates.
Yeah.
Fair shares. Loot was divided amongst the crew members on rank, with captains and officers receiving more shares than the average sailor. But for the most part, everybody on the ship, no matter what, received loot. Everybody received the same set amount unless you were a captain or a higher officer, which again makes sense. That's kind of how the hierarchy works. But every pirate got paid, which is fantastic and a weird thing to think about. Compensation for injury. A portion of the common stock was set aside for crew members.
So I've got to stop you there. So pirates had a better healthcare and monetary system than we currently have.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
A portion of common stock was set aside for crew members who lost a limb or were injured in service. So they took care of their own, man. And disputes. Fights between crew members were forbidden on board. Quarrels were to be settled on shore with a duel. So there was no fighting allowed on the ship, which that makes sense. I mean, that's the only way it's going to work, man.
Yeah.
But the old pirate movies, you see all the pirates fighting. They're doing all this. Not a thing. They never did that. Thieving. Robbing or stealing from another crew member was punishable and often led in marooning, which I will come back around to. But thievery amongst pirates, not allowed. You're out of the ship. Gambling. Many codes prohibited gambling with cards or money or dice on the ship. So typical pirate movie. Everybody's gambling. Everybody's doing whatever. No gambling on a pirate ship. That was completely against the rules because they knew that crew members would argue over it eventually. And weapons. Each pirate was required to keep their own weapon clean and ready for action. So it wasn't a matter of keeping a stockpile like they show in the pirate movies. Everybody had their particular weapon, and you took care of your weapon, just like the military. Curfew. Lights were to be extinguished by the specific time of 8 p.m. So pirates had a bedtime of 8 p.m. So little fun fact for you there. That's a weird one to me,
They
too.
probably also got up at like 4 a.m.
That's true. The second the lights started shining, they're probably up. But women. Some codes explicitly banned women and children from the ship, and the penalty of death for anyone who had brought them aboard. Obviously, this kind of changed as some of the ships were led by women, but originally the whole thing was, we don't want women or children on the ship. This is strictly for men. If you brought them on the ship, you are off. We're not doing this here.
How did that work with Blackbeard and his wife being a child?
Weren't they on shore? I don't know if
They were.
Did it mention that she actually came on the ship? Because I don't think she did.
Well, no, that's why he had to acquire that new ship, I guess.
Because here's the other fun thing. This set of pirate rules as far as I've seen from digging into stuff and watching the show called Horrible Histories, this was actually created by Blackbeard himself. So
Really?
he actually created the pirate code. Uh, desertion. A pirate who deserted the ship in battle faced punishment by death or marooning. So you left, you deserted the ship. Obviously, that's pretty straightforward. Like, you're going to get kicked off the ship and you're going to be marooned. Which brings me to my last point. The typical idea of pirates is you walk the plank, right? Everybody sees that.
Mhm.
Everybody sees it in every movie, everything. That was never a thing. Pirates did not do that. They used to maroon, which was very, very interesting. I don't know if you've looked into what marooning is exactly, but basically what it was they would put you on an island, a really, really small island, really, really small area that they could just drop you off at. And they leave you with two things: a bottle of rum and a revolver or some type of gun with one shot in it. And
Mhm.
basically your options were to drink yourself to death and die in the sun, or you could just end it now and put a bullet in your head. And that's what they used to do to pirates. There was never kicking them off the thing, never doing none of that. The typical punishment was always marooning, which was pick your poison. End it now, drink yourself to death. Have fun, buddy. But at least
Well,
they left you with a bottle of rum, right?
I was going to say I'd at least drink the bottle of rum before I made my decision. So.
That's what I would say. No matter what, I'm drinking that bottle of rum first, and then we're going to go from there. But
Well, that was pretty fun, Shane, and very topical. Like we said, I don't know how else we would have fit that into the show, so I think it was good that we got to talk about some pirate shit. It was not Pilgrims or Native Americans or anything like that to do with Thanksgiving, but like I said, close enough. Do you have anything else to add for this one?
I'm just happy I finally got to use my pirate fun facts I've been sitting on forever. So here we are. There you go.
Well, there we go. If anyone would like to get in touch with us for any reason whatsoever, Shane, tell them how they can do that.
First and foremost, you guys can email us at bizarreencounters@outlook.com. You guys can also get up with us through social media. Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook are the ones that we're the most active on. You guys can also get a hold of us through the submission form, which is available up at the top of the link tree and goes directly to our email. And last but not least, you guys could always call or text the Bizarre Reality Media hotline 24/7, and that number is 313-364-1551. And if you happen to miss any of that, it is available down in the show description.
And you guys be sure, to show some love to our friends and sponsors of the show. We got our buddies Rick and Hans with I Know Squatch for all your squatchy gear needs. We got our buddy Dave, aka the Snarly Yow, with Snarly Yow Natural Products. And we got our buddy Joe with Cryptoteology for all your wowable Thanksgiving cryptids.
There you go. And if you also have some additional free time, don't forget to check out our awesome friends with affiliate links. We got Dimension Devices over there for all of your paranormal investigating, awesome equipment. And we also got Sticker Mule if you'd like to pick up some stickers, t-shirts, any of that fun stuff. And we do have a $10 credit available for you guys and more additional credits available for you guys down in the show description.
And as always, all this shit we've mentioned is in the link tree in the show description.
I have been the one that they call Shane, aka the original Sane Squatch.
And I have been the big bad Boo Daddy, Orin Felix.
And as we usually do around here, we keep it bizarre. So we're going to tell you guys the same. Don't forget to always, always keep it and stay bizarre. Bizarre. Bizarre.
You're a smelly pirate hooker.
You are a smelly pirate hooker.